Greetings and welcome. We turn now in 303 back to Mr. Conrad's Unstoppable Volume, Lesson 49, 5 Minutes of Hell, a somewhat strange title that will be explained once we begin our reading. Let's start in your journals quickly with the focus, however, idea of the code of honor. You want to write this one down. You have to think about this one, how the code of honor, how you know how to behave. This is our topic, how you know how to behave, right? Let's go ahead and read. Macy Labs and Billy Ivy were teammates on our high school basketball team. They were teammates, our classmates too. Both of them were in the same woodworking class I taught, Mr. Conrad says. It was an ordinary day in the fall of 2004 when the two of them came into class. Wasey asked Billy if he could borrow $1 to buy a pop from the pop machine. Billy gave Wasey a buck. Wasey bought a pop. Nothing unusual there. In fact, I've seen kids do that hundreds of times. What would make this seemingly insignificant event turn out to be an unforgettable Friday story is because of what did not happen next. Wasey promised Billy he'd pay him back the next day, but then he told Billy the following day, "I forgot." He promised to bring him the $1 tomorrow. Once again the next day, Wasey forgot. Billy then challenged Wasey by asking him, "Are you a man of your word or simply the words of a man?" Famous quote he learned from his Woods teacher, me. The entire class jeered and gestured at Wasey, saying, "Oh!" Wasey stood up, feeling the pressure from his class, and said, "I swear, on the Marines' honor, I'll bring your $1 tomorrow." He bellowed it in front of the entire class. Wasey sat down, and the jeering ceased. Everyone, including me, knew how important the Marines were to Wasey. Wasey wanted to be a Marine ever since he was in 5th grade. He talked about them constantly, and he would tell you facts and strategies of some of their greatest battles. He knew the names of all the soldiers in the famous picture of the American flag raising on Iwo Jima. I felt he knew more about the Marines than the Marines knew about themselves. So the next day, after Wasey forgot about Billy's $1 once again, I knew what I had to do. I called in the Marines. Literally. Honor, courage, and commitment are part of the core values of the Marine Corps. Corey Hickson was one of my former students who learned those values becoming a Marine. He lost his eye and almost his life in the war in Iraq. He was back in town on leave, so I called him and told him what was going on. I asked him if he would come in and be a live Friday story. Corey agreed, having remembered the effect the Friday stories had had on him when he was in my class. When word got out round school that Corey Hickson, a hometown hero, was going to be the special live Friday story, more than 200 students and teachers showed up in my classroom. We had to move out into the wood shop just so everyone could squeeze in. Kids were sitting on the floor, the table saws, the workbenches, and everywhere they could find a place. I began by introducing Corey to the crowd while showing a picture of him doing the 5 Minutes of Hell. The 5 Minutes of Hell is a wall sit, usually reserved for those who come late to class. In Corey's case, it was for leaving early one day along with the rest of the class. The picture showed Corey and his brother Greg and the entire class doing the 5, as we like to say. The picture was quite funny. When everyone stopped laughing, I said, "Corey went from 5 Minutes of Hell to the real thing." Lance Corporal Hickson bravely stepped up in front of some of his former classmates in the exact same shop in which he had built a grandfather clock his senior year. Over 200 kids sat in stone silence waiting to hear what his hometown hero would say while trying not to stare at his missing eye, his scarred face. He began by saying his father was a Marine in Vietnam. "Ever since I was a little boy, I wanted to be a Marine too," Corey softly said. Ironically, after watching him graduate from Marine boot camp in 2003, his brother Greg, another former student, enlisted on the way home. Within a few short months, they were together in Iraq, carrying on the family tradition, wearing the same uniform that Dad had worn in Nam. Being a grunt and being able to look down upon a dirty, bloody, and sweat-stained uniform was what I wanted out of life, Corey said at his decision to enlist. He then told the crowd about the 5-hour battle in Fallujah in Iraq. After the battle, we were checking on enemy pickup trucks we had attacked when a mortar round exploded next to me. Corey was taken to a hospital in Iraq where he awoke in a haze of pain, missing one eye. "Everything's going to be all right," He heard a familiar voice say, looking up with his one good eye, saw a fellow Marine, his brother, Greg. Corey spoke that Friday about the value of honor, courage, and most of all, commitment. The importance of keeping your word, no matter how big or small, is everything in the Marines and in life. The 200 plus students hung on every word Corey said that day, and there was one especially who was taking his message to heart. You guessed it, Wasey Labs. When Corey finished, I had Wasey present him with a Brother Woods shirt to show our appreciation. Corey graciously accepted the shirt and thanked everyone. Then he did something I couldn't believe. He removed the Marine emblem from his uniform, turned, and handed it to Wasey. Don't ever make me regret giving this to you, Corey said to a misty-eyed Wasey. The crowd exploded. I even got choked up. Afterward, Wasey thanked me, knowing that the Friday story was especially for him. He told me that someday he was going to be a Marine. When my years of service are over, I'm going to give my Marine emblem to Corey Hickson, he said. On September 14, 2006, Wasey became a Marine. He currently is Private First Class Labs, part of the MSOB Marine Special Ops Battalion. And he has several more years to go. I can only hope I get to witness the day when Corey gets his emblem back. I'm almost positive it'll be with no regrets. Oh, I forgot to mention, Billy got his dollar back too. Thanks, Corey and Wasey, for helping to perpetuate a tradition of excellence. And then finally, the Marines' core values are unstoppable. And then the question, what's your code of honor? Let's go ahead and pause for a moment and just make some observations for your journals really quickly. Notice, one, the power of a good role model, right? And the way in which all it takes is one well-lived life to be able to teach a lot of people. Of course, this is a good challenge to each of us, right? Live your life in such a way that those who are younger can look at you and want to emulate your life. Notice number two, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it, isn't it, right? One of the important lessons of the Unstoppable volume is this simple truth. Anybody can talk, and therefore talk is cheap. But can you actually follow through? Can you do it? Observation to finish. If you've broken your word, and you know that in those cases when you have. When you said you'd do something and you didn't. When you promised something and you didn't. When you betrayed a friend and you shouldn't have. When you broke your word. I think it makes sense before you graduate to find that individual if you can and apologize. Own up to it. Don't pretend as if it doesn't matter. Own up to it and apologize for it. And of course, sometimes this is even more problematic. If somebody has broken his or her word to you, in other words, lied to you, betrayed you, the only thing that you can do is to forgive that and move on. You can't hold on to it. It only hurts you in the end, right? And so this is problematic, obviously, and challenging, and yet I recommend that you at least consider it. Lesson 49. Thank you. Mr. Conrad's volume.